Okay, look at the following example.
Michelle Obama wowed in white at last night's state dinner. The First Lady of Style stole the show with a strapless ivory gown custom made by designer Brandon Maxwell. The dress got big approval ratings from the president.
Okay, so you can see that Obama does the thumbs up gesture. It's a cultural specific one, and because in some cultures, you know, biting your thumb or having the thumb up is not positive, but in Western cultures, in many Western cultures, it's a sign of approval, of being supportive. And if you've got a constructional template, you know, because you know it's conventional for a specific community, it can be stored, and it's going to be a unimodal gesture construction. So it has properties on the form level, but in this case, it's going to be gesture parts, and it's going to be linked to a meaning. So we can fit it into a constructional template, of course. This one is going to be stored. It's a unimodal construction that has the gesture properties. And I'm using a Bresson's notation scheme here that the thumb, that's the one, is stretched. The palm is normally lateral. And then this, on the semantic level, it means something like good, yes, or approval. And pragmatically, you use it to show support and create rapport with an addressee. So that's clearly another type of construction, but it's unimodal. It's a gesture construction. There's a few of them, but not as many as there are verbal construction, because we are the verbal species, and spoken language, of course, dominates in our societies, though we, of course, have specific sign languages which people have created for people who are impaired with respect to their hearing, and they use that to communicate. And these are fully developed linguistic systems that work in the same way, and where you can also apply the notion of constructions in this sense, where a specific gesture is going to be linked to a specific meaning. The one that I just signaled is I love you in American Sign Language, I hope. Okay. Now, whenever construction grammarians sort of think about phenomenon, they always think about it in terms of constructions. So if there are unimodal gesture constructions, and if there are unimodal verbal constructions, what about multimodal constructions? And the jury is still out on those. Not a lot have been found. Landwehr, Schoeniens, and Siemer argue for multimodal constructions, mostly because from a usage-based perspective, right? We take in a specific token, a specific exemplar in its rich contextual situation, and that means gesture, position of the speaker, and everything. Some of this information, like all information that we store, can get lost if it doesn't get reactivated, but at first it could be stored. So if it happens very often, it could become part of a multimodal construction package. Ningelin and Auer are more skeptical, and so is Alexander Ziem. Because they argue that most of the instances are a combination of a unimodal construction on the gesture level with a unimodal verbal construction, and they're just put together on the fly. And I find this more interesting than anything else, because most people sort of stop at this. And I would argue that these multimodal constructs, the one that are not stored, from the aspect of creativity, from the aspect of what's going on in the working memory, how we combine the verbal and the gestural, is actually the most important and the most fascinating bit. Which is why I argue that one focus of constructional research should focus more on these online form meaning pairs, as I call them, the online constructions that are created in the working memory by building constructs. I would call this constructionalization, but Elizabeth Traugott and Graham Trousel have already sort of copyrighted the term for linguistic change, and it's slightly different. So let's use online form meaning pairs and constructs for this notion. Multimodal constructs can become multimodal constructions. They can become entrenched, and frequency and salience, like for all other constructions, are going to be important. But at the same time, gesture use has been shown to be based on inter-individual differences, psychology, the big 5 traits, which we're going to look at towards the end. So as I said, what I want to focus on more is on the creative aspect in the working memory, where something is combined that isn't a construction yet.